All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Assemble. My name is High Ruler, and today, a day late and a dollar short, but once again, I'm welcomed back with Stardust here for your Avengers Weekly Recap. Stardust, how you doing?
I'm doing all right, man. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. So, obviously, guys, it is a day late, which is on me. I had some things sprung up on me after work yesterday, but we have a lot of things to cover, and it seems a day late actually did us a favor here in terms of things to talk about. So, right off the rip, guys, today we're going to be talking about Spider-Man, Black Panther, the SP rework. Custom harm rooms are now confirmed for the 18th, and I think we'll be taking some questions at the end, and that'll be it for today's show. So, obviously, as you know, there's a lot of information that has come out this week, and starting off with some 4chan leaks, my favorite things in the whole entire world. We have Spider-Man news and Black Panther news. Stardust, which one do you want to start with?
I've got to start off with Spider-Man. I think being a PlayStation player, I think I'm going to flex a little bit, and then we'll talk about Spider-Man.
Okay,
All
all
right.
right. So,
So
yeah, no, please, you know what?
we
You
got.
take off with this. You go with this.
All
You're
right. Okay. Okay. Cool. Right. So we've got some leaks from a supposed playtester on 4chan. Got to take it with a massive grain of salt. Like to the point where your mouth's going to be dry when you have this grain of salt. Okay, so I'll read it off and maybe break it down as I'm reading it off. I got this from Reddit.
sure.
Would that?
Yeah,
Would you
go for
say?
it.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, go for
So
it.
this leak is just for his gameplay. Nope, they killed the volume before sharing the screen to me, so don't ask me who's the VA. They had me run two harmons by myself and a mission that had a green robot's head with three others. Okay, that's just real quick, actually, Hyrule. We're going to ask you a question. Uh, Green Robot. What do you think? What do you think about that? That sounds like a super adaptoid to me.
I was gonna say Spider Slayer.
Could be. Yeah. I mean, I just whenever someone said who's Spider-Man's villain going to be, I never in my mind thought it was actually going to be a big Spider-Man villain because that
Yeah.
is. He's got such an iconic rose gallery. It would be another kick in the teeth. So a Spider Slayer evens it out, I think. So I believe that so far. So
Okay.
his
Okay.
web swinging reminds me of the web swinging in Lego Marvel, but somehow they made it where you can't swing on the air. It's a bit slow, but for a zone world type game, it fits perfect in there. I think that's pretty I think everyone predicted as such. He wasn't
Mm-hmm.
going to have Insomniac web swinging or anything like that, and I think him just zipping around and stuff, it just makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
This part is the most interesting part to me personally because it sounds well, I'll read it first and then I'll, But when he webs enemies, it's not like how he does in the Insomniac version, where they get tied up after 4 or 5 shots. They put like this web PNG over the enemy, and the more you web them, the larger it grows. Now, that sounds to me like a status effect.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I guess you're right. I'm just trying to imagine that in my head what that looks like, and it looks kind of rough in my head. But you could honestly be right that it's like a status effect built into Spider-Man. It's in my head. It just looks really weird, like when I'm picturing how that's gonna look when I play him. But
Mm.
you are possibly correct. Yeah, I would say so. I can't
I
imagine
mean,
it being anything else.
yeah, so I mean, my assumption would be that obviously I imagine that they would have a lot of problems with the whole webbing over the enemies thing because there's just so many like scenarios where something could go quite weird with that. So
Mm-hmm.
my assumption is that it's not a status effect where you can have, battery damage on it, right? But I think it will
Right.
work similar to how cryo works, where like they slow down pretty much,
Interesting.
rather than actually be covered in webbing. But anyway, fine detail they did with his lenses. I was worried that it was just going to be bland, but they added expression to his lenses when he fights or gets hit. I think that's quite a common Spider-Man thing nowadays in a lot of
Yeah.
media where they give him expressive lenses. So, I mean, I'm glad they did it because it just helps, but with the expressions. But it's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
He has the rest of the stuff that makes him Spider-Man, like wall crawling, running on walls for as long as he wants, and hangs upside down. Now, obviously, we've already seen running on walls with Cap. Wall crawling is going to be an interesting one because even Insomniac didn't do that well. I
Oh
think
no, you can't say
wall
that.
crawling.
You can't
No, no,
say
no, no,
that.
no. Wait, no, no,
You
no.
you
Wall
you you
crawling.
realize you can't say that, right? Don't take that back.
Wait. I think you know what? I actually think a lot of people would agree with me that everything else in traversal is brilliant, but the wall
Mm-hmm.
crawling, as in literally just on all fours, not like running up the wall, it was a bit weird. So, and I don't think any other game, in my opinion, besides Web of Shadows, has been able to really nail that. Because, but then again, not a lot of people need to climb up the walls when you can just run up the walls. But in this game, it's different. So I look forward to seeing that. If this is obviously 100% accurate, but you can't really have Spider-Man and not allow him to climb up walls and stuff. So
Okay,
I
let me
don't
let
know.
me. Well,
Oh,
before,
sorry.
before you run off and onto a different thing, let me nail you down on this one.
Oh
Um,
no.
what do you want to see at a wall crawling that would make it like better than the rest? You know, like for someone who doesn't really pay attention to that kind of stuff, what makes wall crawling in the Insomniac version not that great? And then how would you like to see it improved into the Avengers version?
I think it's just with like in the Insomniacs version, it just feels very jittery, like in a lot of Spider-Man games. Like for example, in the older Spider-Man games, if you're climbing down a building,
Mm-hmm.
Spider-Man will do like this little thing where he puts his hands on the floor and then flips back onto his feet. But in Insomniac's version, you just kind of don't go anywhere if you try and wall crawl to the floor, right?
Okay.
You just keep walking into the floor. And again, by the way, just want to clear up something real quick. I had a bang to the head before this podcast, so if that's wrong, and I'm thinking of an entirely different wall crawling
Oh, don't
system.
worry, dude. You'll hear it. You'll hear it.
Okay, so anyway, but I think that I mean, me personally, I never use the wall crawling often in
Mm-hmm.
Insomniac's game because you could literally just sprint up the walls, so it just seemed silly. But and I never despised it, but it was just sort of something that I've seen a lot of people not be a fan of anyway. But I think in the Avengers version, there's a lot that they could do with that in regards to combat. Like me personally, the reason I like the Web of Shadows one is because you can fight while you're on the side of the walls, but I'm not expecting that. But what would be nice is just like moves to use the walls, if that makes sense. So
Yeah. No, that
obviously
makes sense. Yeah.
in Insomniac's version, if you dodge towards a wall and then do an attack, he'll like spring off the wall to do the
Mm-hmm.
attack. And I think that would be something that would be really cool for them to implement with every character realistically, but Spider-Man just fits that mold like really well.
Okay.
So that's something that I'd like to see. But hanging upside down, uh, I mean, yeah, you know what I mean. Like
Yep.
that sort of
Yep.
reads itself. I don't know if she forgot to remove his emote before we played, but when I held down on the D-pad, up came an emote wheel, which is interesting. That had 6 emotes per page. I did one called "Hanging Out," which was just him hanging upside down while on his phone. Now, I remember Miller obviously leaking the Spider-Man emotes, and one of them was phone. Am I right? One of them was like a phone
I'm
emote.
about to double check for that just in case. Because I actually haven't cross checked with Miller's Spider-Man's leaks because I know it was just a few emotes.
Yeah.
But well, as I do that, you can, if
Well,
you don't mind, keep reading off.
so obviously, but then we've got after that. After I complete the 2 harm rooms, she briefly disconnected me so she could set up the lobby for me to play with 3 other testers. There really wasn't anything interesting about this mission besides it taking almost an hour to complete. I don't remember what the mission was named, but it took place in the snow, so that sounds like tundra to me. The boss fight at the end was the only thing interesting due to the fact that there was 4 green robots attacking us, which this fight took almost 10 minutes to complete. Now that to me is an interesting one because it, all of this doesn't seem very realistic to me. Oh, whoops, I missed one. His Spidey sense HUD colors is a mix between red and blue, like in the Spider-Verse movie, but it doesn't take up your whole screen and only uses the rays. Right, there we go. That's all of it. So uh, the 4 green robots sound interesting because to me, I can't help but stop thinking about I can't help but think of Super Adaptoid whenever I keep reading these. It seems
Mm-hmm.
like someone who's trying to name Super Adaptoid without naming them, but
Sure.
it doesn't seem very. I don't know. There's something about it. It seems very like a lot of it is stuff that either people predicted anyway, or it's stuff that just doesn't sound. I don't know. I read this and I just don't see it. I see that these
Right.
things happening, but I don't see this actually coming from a playtester.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you asked me, okay, Stardust, pretend you were a playtester and write out what you saw, I'd probably
Pretend.
write
Wait, wait, wait.
this.
Oh, sorry. Oh, we're actually pretending you're not playtesting. You weren't playtesting. Okay, sorry, sorry, sorry. Anyways, yeah. Sorry, yeah. Of
I,
course, continue. Yeah.
I wish I was. Like, damn. Anyway, but yeah, like the emote wheel's interesting. I like, obviously we've needed one for so long.
Mm-hmm.
But what I find curious about that is I believe it wasn't that long ago Phil was like, we're looking into it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if playtesters are using an emote wheel, then surely that looking into it shouldn't have been, do you know what I mean? It should have
Well,
been like we're working on it.
here's the thing. Like, whenever they say like we're looking into it, I honestly take that as we're in production of it, right? So you can say this with an emote wheel, for example, or when they said, "Oh, we'll have more information on the harm room soon," and then 2 weeks later we get like the custom harm room stuff, like, or the enemy stuff when when Phil's asking about like new enemy faction. It's not like we're looking into new enemies. It's like, hey, what kind of enemies are you looking for? Because we've already started working. We want to make sure we're on the right track, right? Like, so like a lot of the time when they're saying like, hey, like, what do you like this? Do you want this? We're looking into this. It's like we're actually working on this, and what we want is your feedback without actually asking for your feedback because we can't tell you we're working on it. Like it's a very
Yeah.
sly way to kind of communicate that like we're actually working on this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean that to be fair, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, see, big brain high ruler, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like the thing is that obviously there's a lot here that like if this is all true, which I hope it is. I mean, I like it. It sounds really cool. There's just a lot here that I expected more detail for something so important in the community as Spider-Man. You know what I mean? Because like just before we read into the Panther one is screaming with detail, like literally oozing with stuff.
Well, I maybe just a little cynical on this one, but there's been a lot of detail kind of leaked about Panther. There's been really nothing leaked about Spider-Man, right? So like before we
Yeah,
before we get into the Panther one, to your point, there's really not a lot that we have to go on about Spider-Man. So when someone, and once again, it's on 4chan, my favorite place for leaks. So when someone leaks about something that we really have no information on, it's like they're shooting in the dark versus like a Panther leak, which we'll get into, and it's like there's a little bit of information out there that maybe they can start piecing things together to make it look like they're talking about things. But yeah,
mm,
I mean, to your point, I look at the Spider-Man stuff and I see pieces of something that could really work, right? I see the emote wheel. I see like the web stuff. Like I see like the wall crawling. I see the emote which they pulled from Miller. Like there's enough there that they could really kind of piece together like a solid Spider-Man if a lot of that is true. But then there's some other things I look at that and I'm just like, one of the things that I think about is like a fine detail they did was with his lenses. I was worried that was just going to be bland, but they added expression to his lenses when he fights or get hits. Is someone playtesting really paying attention to his lenses that deeply? Like, you know what I mean? Versus like, what is his combat style like? Why aren't you really talking about his
yeah,
combat style versus like the other games? And instead you're going with the lenses, which I mean, like you said, that's a very Spider-Man thing nowadays, right? Like there's little things like that that kind of throw me off the scent of this a little bit, right? Like, tell
yeah,
me, does he play like Insomniac? Does he play like a prior one? What is his combat like? Is he jumping? Is he doing all these acrobatic moves? Or you know what I mean? Like versus like, yeah, like I looked at his lenses. Like, no, you didn't. Like, don't fucking lie. Like, come on, really? Like, no one's gonna like if someone had the time to sit down and like, spin the camera around and look at his lenses while he's fighting, like sure. But in a playtest scenario, like is that something that you know what I mean? Like is that like a real high priority that someone from Crystal Dynamics is gonna be like, yeah, of course, look at the lenses. Why not? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it just reads like that's just like someone just taking a guess to kind of validate whatever else they're saying because of like the association that you have now with this lenses of the recent Spider-Man iterations, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if I was a playtester and I got the chance to playtest Spider-Man as someone who's like a big Spider-Man nerd, this is
Mm-hmm.
something I would actually look at just because, I like to, I would
Okay.
want to,
Okay.
and as like a playtester, you'd want to take a look at literally everything. Because, for example, if the person who was playtesting this, again, in a world where this is true, thought to themselves, actually, what's his eyes like? What's his lenses? Because obviously in Insomniac's version, he has expressive lenses, and he
Mm-hmm.
looks and goes, "Oh, cool, okay." So I wonder, and the words, and maybe when he was looking at the lenses, maybe an enemy came over and hit him. Then he noticed, oh look, his lens is closed and then reopened again briefly, like so he's reacting to the hit. Um, and that's just me playing devil's advocate with that.
Yeah,
But
of course, of
obviously,
course.
personally, it's very odd that you speak about webbing enemies, you speak about the web swinging, two very important Spider-Man things, and wall crawling as well, and wall running. But you don't talk about the combat, which, of course, this, if anything, is something that you can't uh, criticize the
Bullshit.
game on, is the combat.
Oh, I was gonna say you can't bullshit it either in a league, but no, you're right too, right? You can't criticize it, and that's what we're missing in this league too, right? Heroics, combat, like there's really nothing there. So like, you know what I mean? Like if they let
Yeah,
you get into the harm room, they had this, play tester, do two harm rooms by themselves in a mission that had a green robot had three heads, like, um, why can't you talk about why didn't you talk about the combat, right? And so and to its credit, there is still more playtests coming, so maybe there is some leaks that will validate or invalidate this, so we'll have to wait and see. But to me, if I'm gonna like rate this leak, it's like a 4 out of 10, like it's just
yeah,
it's
for
not there
sure.
for me, like as
Yeah,
much as like parts of this I want it to be true, just as an overall package, I look at this and I'm like, oh, like, you know what I mean? Like it just
yeah,
yeah.
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 I mean, he did two harm, or they, whatever,
Yep,
did
yep.
two harm rooms by themselves, and then they did a mission that took them almost an hour to complete. And you're telling me that you can't tell us what his ultimate is?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like you've literally been in. We assume it's an OLT that they played, and you're telling
Mhm.
me that you can't give me an idea of his heroics, or at least his very basic combos, or at least where we could look to see, okay, so it's like that, or it's like that, or whatever,
Yeah.
Obviously, I think that, me personally, just talking about Spider-Man for a moment, is I think that them taking anything from Insomniac will not upset people, but will add that comparison fire that I think they would want to try and stay away from. So
Mhm.
ideally, and again, I trust their combat completely, which is why I'm not worried at all with the combat side of it. But I think that, they'll either have to grab it into the old Spider-Man games for homages, or and the films, for example, or just completely try and utilize that whole like quick, fast, in and out Spider-Man style luchador esque combat, which he's known for. So I think that would be really good.
All right. Well, what's your final thoughts on the Spider-Man leak? If you had to sum it up into one sentence.
Fake.
Okay. All right. Well, let's
Yeah.
get into what could be fake, what could not be fake, and that is the Black Panther stuff. So I'll read this one, and it starts
Okay.
off by saying each of his weapons have different animations. His claws were my favorite to use. When using his daggers, you can aim, and his range attacks will turn into kinetic spears. But the spears barely do as much damage. His kinetic staff does a really decent amount of damage. There's a really nice detail when using kinetic weapons. They leave this purple particle trail when swinging your staff or throwing a spear. Unfortunately, they didn't let me play T'Challa's Operation, though when I was going to the war table, I did see that it was called Welcome to Wakanda. This post will be one out of a few posts talking about Black Panther. So I think there was two leaks, and this Reddit thread has summed up both of them into one. So that first one there is kind of stuff that we already kind of knew, right? Like his claws,
Yeah.
his daggers, his spear, like that's stuff that's already been kind of leaked. So once again, it's like taking information that was kind of known and then spinning it into like what is like a playtest leak. This one, to its credit, obviously is talking a little bit more about the combat stuff, but once again, it's still public information. If you're looking for it, that is, right? If you're looking for that kind of information, it is out there. And then kind of
Yeah.
spinning it around and using it as like a very timed release during what is a playtest week, and just kind of like it's just it's tough, right? Like it's tough to look at that and say I believe it.
Yeah, I mean, like the part where it says, "I did see that the operation was called Welcome to Wakanda." I don't know if that's been leaked before.
I think that
I
I
know
think that
that
was I think this doesn't say it, but I believe that is for the opening mission. I don't know if that's the name of the
it does
operation.
sound like, yeah, it
I
does
think
sound
that's
like
just the
what the
opening
first
mission of it.
mission would be called. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Because I mean, like again, pretty much. Well, I mean, from where when I've seen them, all these leaks have come from Miller, and he jumped into my stream the other day actually, and we were talking about this, and his opinion is that they both seem a bit, but if
Hmm.
one of them's going to be real, he actually thought it was the Spider-Man one, ironically, because
Oh, really?
yeah, so because this sounds very uncontrolled. Like there's a lot that they took out of this, but
Hmm.
and especially considering that we we believe that Spider-Man is closer just from work
Mm-hmm.
that Miller's seen. There is a lot of Panther stuff here for me to not believe that he's either going to be packaged with Spider-Man or before, right? Because there's clearly more here if they're both true, right? Which again, I don't think they are, but so I'll let you read on. I got
Yeah, I mean,
excited.
I mean to further that point though, is like there is more to do with like T'Challa and Wakanda than just the character, right? Like, so
Yeah.
it's very possible that say we go down the rabbit hole and someone gets to play T'Challa and take them into a harm room. T'Challa is probably close to being done, right? Like the character itself was probably done. What a lot of the work goes into is the voice acting, the cut scenes, designing the missions, designing the NPCs, the environments, all, and like the raid, for example. Like that stuff probably takes longer than just the character. I imagine the character is probably close to done, at this point. So it, I would believe technically that the character is probably super close to being done, if not done. It's everything else alongside it. But yeah, let me just keep going here. And it says next, his iconic skin has been tweaked. It isn't covered in a lot of the buckles like the concept art was. A good majority of his outfits have a golden and white variant, as in different color markings on the suit. He has his suit from the Man Without Fear comic run. This one really looks beautiful. They did a spin-off of his first appearance from the Fantastic Four comic back in the 70s. The one that from Ultimate Alliance 2 with the short cape and the strap across his chest. He does have a Stark Tech outfit, but when you see it, it's going to remind you of his outfit from Black Panther and the Agents of Wakanda #3. He has one more outfit from the Fantastic Four series. It's from Fantastic Four Volume 1, 607, and yes, he has capes with different sizes too. And the last one they showed me was a sleeveless outfit with a cowl. This one reminded me of Ultimate Avengers 2 Black Panther. Yeah, okay. Let's talk about this. This is, if the first one I could believe, this second one just screams bullshit to me. Like they're going to
Yeah.
show you all of these outfits? Like really? Really? They're
What,
going to
like as a play tester, yeah, why do you need to see the outfits? Like,
right.
you know, that's weird. Yeah, no, I'll be
Yeah.
honest. If it was the combat stuff and then the first bit, so talking about the iconic skin, and
Yep.
that was it, I
Yep.
would have been like, yeah, actually,
Yep.
yeah, that seems very realistic. But it's when you get into it, right? So obviously, it's very, I don't know. It seems a bit obvious that this one isn't real, right? And that they
Mhm.
could have really covered their tracks had they have just not gotten cocky with it
Yeah.
and just left it from the first one. I mean, I could be totally looking stupid with egg on my face and this all be real, but it's just, I
I
mean,
mean,
how could you believe it?
to be fair, if it is real, and all this turns out to be real, no one's gonna care that you have egg on your face. Everyone's gonna be saying this is sick, right? So I
Yeah,
mean, like
yeah.
you're totally okay to say like this isn't real, because if you're wrong, I mean you're wrong about something that ultimately will be good. You know what I
I mean,
mean? So
I'm
like
wrong. I'm happy wrong. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
well,
Like,
that's exactly it, right? That's exactly it. So, no, I'm gonna agree with you that this one, like the first part, the combat stuff, even though they're pulling from information that really is already available, I could see a lot of that just being true based off they're just pulling off information and just kind of forming a narrative around it. Totally fine. That's, excuse me. The second part is where I'm like, yeah, you guys, like whoever did this, like you just went one step too far, buddy. Like
yeah.
yeah, the second part just yeah. So that is the Black Panther stuff. Personally, to me, the first part, yeah, sure, why not? The second part is kind of bullshit. What do you think about everything to do with the Black Panther stuff?
Um, I think that see, obviously, like Miller, for example, who if anyone's gonna be able to call bullshit on leaks, it's Miller. But if I'm just using my complete unbiased, if I just read this completely on my own without talking to anyone else, I would probably say that Panthers one looks more realistic. But then when you really think about it, they both just scream bullshit. Like
Yeah,
Spider Man doesn't go into enough detail. This goes into too much detail. I
interesting.
think,
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
it'll really be interesting. Like I said, I know there was a playtest this week, and I know there's one the last week of March. Um, so it wouldn't surprise me if we see more leaks around the second one, because now people are gonna see what worked or what didn't, and now they're gonna really try and sophisticate, whatever they come up with, right? I imagine like there will probably be stuff that comes out of these playtests. I would think so. Um, that will probably have a little bit of truth in it. It's just gonna be the little bit of truth is gonna be surrounded by a bunch of bullshit, and you're gonna have to try
Yeah.
and navigate your way through to find out what's real and what's not. So, it will really be interesting to see how it all plays out. But to be fair, and to be completely honest with you, I thought there would be more leaks. I really did. I thought people would say fuck the NDAs and really just fucking throw it to the wall,
Yeah.
And to my
I'll be, I'll,
surprise, it
yeah.
hasn't happened, you know?
I mean, the thing is, right, it's the internet, so there's always that shielding of protection from anything. Like, yes, you've NDA'd, but the only time that really becomes like a fucking issue is if you've just strapped your name to whatever you're talking
Yeah.
about. There's always ways to hide your
Yep.
shit, and I'm just
Yep.
shocked that, like, is it because the people that want to give off this information want the clout for it, so they can't put their name on, so they're just not going to
Yeah.
talk about it? Or is it like, is there a reason for it? Have they tried to go to some sort of higher up, uh, Kotaku or something, and just be like, here, have fun with this, even though they don't, they're obviously not going to talk about stuff like that. And or what, like, it just, I don't know, a lot of this just seems a bit weird. And like you said, there's so much that we thought would come out. It almost feels like there hasn't been a play test because of the lack of leaks that we've seen.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I definitely do know there was definitely a playtest. But I do know there's one
Oh
coming
yeah,
up
no, for
too. So
sure, but
yeah,
it's like
but yeah,
yeah,
it's honestly like it never happened, right? Like it's like, whoever playtest was actually just locked in a box and then shipped to Crystal Dynamics basement, and you can come out whenever the content that you playtest has been released, so you can't talk about anything. You know what I mean? Like it definitely does
yeah.
feel like an Indiana Jones type scenario where they just get like pushed into like the big warehouse with all the boxes in there, Like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Interesting. All right, give me your one sentence rundown to the Black Panther stuff.
Cocky.
Cocky. Okay, we have fake for Spider-Man. We have cocky for Black Panther. All right, so next, but certainly not least this week, we have God. Here we go again. We have the XP rework situation. Um,
Woo!
Yeah, woo, yeah. It's not like I haven't talked about this enough. So basically, for anyone who hasn't kept up with the news, basically, they kind of put out a blog post that the XP was going to be changed. The XP curve was going to be changed from what they called a straight line into more of a curve. After level 25 onwards, it's going to take about 3 to 5 hours to reach max now, on top of what it would normally take, right? So I'm gonna let you kind of take the reins on this one, Stardust, because I've done a lot of talking about this one, and to be honest
Yeah,
with you,
man.
I'm just kind of tired of it. So, I'm gonna let you talk about it first, and then we can just kind of go from there.
All right, so obviously, when I first read it, being someone who is 150 on all heroes, obviously minus Clinks, he's not even out yet, right? It's like so for me personally, didn't bother me. Thought it sounded whatever, if it's a change they have to make, it's a change they have to make. I didn't look too deep into it, right? But then I
Mm-hmm.
saw the criticism and I was like, okay, now I get it. You know what I mean? And I totally understood it. But
Mm-hmm.
then people like Bob Duck and Weave, shout out, was explaining how like they leveled up Kamala from what was it, like 4 to 50 in
Uh,
like 3-4 hours.
yeah. So let me pull up the tweet actually.
Yeah, just
'Cause
for exact, yeah.
yeah, and I'll put it on screen. So if you're watching this, it's gonna come up over my beautiful face and Stardust's beautiful logo. If I can scroll, here we go. So let me just quote it. It says, well, there we go. Point proven. It needs to be changed. Level 9 to 50 in about 4 hours this time. And then he puts, had to reply to some emails. So obviously, the 4 hours wasn't totally just gaming. He says, P.S. I spent 5 points before I thought the save them to post a screenshot. PPS did this all without leveling whittle up skills wise above level 14. So it looks like he was able to go level 9 to 15 in about 4 hours, give or take some time spent with emails. And we get it, Bob. You're very important and special, and you don't need to flex on all
Yeah,
the rest of us, right? Like,
cheeky flex
Jesus, dude.
sponsors.
Yeah, right. Like, but yeah, I mean, like to his point, like level 9 to 50 in 4 hours is kind of crazy. Now, I guess I'm getting fired up again. Let me talk a little bit about um kind of the reasoning they gave. The reasoning they gave, I think, actually did more damage than anything else, right?
Yeah, let's
There's yeah, so like there's two things that they really kind of royally screwed up on. So the first and foremost being that the first blog post didn't have a lot of information inside of it. It was just kind of like, here's the change we're making. If you want to go and not and avoid this change, you better go play now. Optics wise, they fucked up. That you can't say that, right? Second is they fuck. First one, they fucking didn't give enough information. And second, I don't know where I was going with this. Please step in.
okay, right. So, right. So, obviously, the first one they didn't come out with a lot of information, and the reasoning was sort of like, okay, go play now before we totally change up how what you're used to since September, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then obviously they wrote the other one, which I mean everyone's everyone's kind of wrote down as a no. That is
Yeah.
ridiculous. Like basically, players get overwhelmed and stuff like
Yeah.
that, and
Oh,
it was
yeah, yeah,
just
yeah.
like,
Well, that. Oh,
yeah,
sorry. That was the second point. Is like the reasoning. My brain's not working today. The
that's
reasoning they
fine, man. No
gave
worries.
it's almost like insulting to your players. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm sure there are lots of players who, at the time of like, you can ding a bunch of levels in a mission, and then you go and you have all these like different skills and like specialties and masteries and stuff. And maybe it does take some players some time to sit down and to kind of look at that. But in the grand scheme of their messaging, it just really came off like disingenuous or insulting, depending on who you ask. Like, it really seemed like, and if it was me in charge of this messaging, I would have said, "Hey guys, we're changing the XP curve to bring it more in line with power leveling as well, right? Because as in Bob's tweet, he's level 50, power 47, right? But maybe now, instead of being 50 and 47, maybe they want you to be, by the time you hit 50, you're at 100 or whatever. You know what I mean? Because they're independent of each other. So maybe the whole goal is that you're not hitting 50 and you're super low power. It's you're 50 and you're already kind of halfway there to soft cap. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, here's the thing. Like when I when I read it, and I saw this entire paragraph, and then I saw the Kate thing where it was like, you're gonna have to quote me with it, not quote me, sorry, you're gonna have to help me out with this part.
Mm-hmm.
But Kate's leveling was pretty much bugged, right? Because all the
Yes.
heroes were leveled up. There was some weird thing where she went up like way
Yeah.
faster than she should have done. Now that's a bug, right? And
Yep.
bugs need to be fixed.
Yep.
So just put it in a fucking patch note. Don't call us dumb.
Yeah.
Just say it's a bug. It shouldn't have been a thing. Smack that on a patch thing. I doubt anyone would have even noticed. And I know that's like, okay, what about transparency?
Mm-hmm.
But there, there's a, there's a time and a place to be like, you could have wrote a lot less and explained that this isn't the way it was supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
We're making the change so that this bug isn't a thing anymore, and we can also, whatever. Don't call people silly. Don't say like all this beating around the bush stuff. It was a bug with Kate. You want to fix it, and while you're fixing it, you fancy doing a little something different. Making
Mm-hmm.
a bit of a curve for players. And I'll be honest, that sounds a lot better than you're all dumb. So we're going to take
Yeah.
away your skill point. You know what I mean? Like, we're going to
Yep.
take away your leveling faster, because in a game like this, people said like, oh, the grind is increasing. You should not be able to level up any character that fast in any game in 4 hours, right? Like, that's, and that, well, in my opinion anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And at launch it was a different story. We had six characters to level up. Like, so the rate of it was fine, and we were used to that. With Kate being singular, the reason everyone was done with her in like 3 days tops is because level 50 was so easy to come by. The power level, we kind of all knew what to do at that point, how to get the gear up.
Mm-hmm.
We already had the mega hives to get our exotics, because I'm assuming some people saved them, but
Well, that was
there
no.
was
So
some
just
problems with
correction.
that.
That first week, yeah, you couldn't do it with Kate.
Yeah,
That first week, yep.
but with but we still had tachyon rifts. That's how I got my
Mm-hmm.
first exotic and stuff like that. So and it wasn't that long afterwards where they managed to fix them finally, and then they broke again, and then they fixed again.
Well, you know,
But
the only thing I can see is this could be damaging to new players, right? Like, but as I said, like new players won't really know what happened between, like, or sorry, between before. So maybe this won't be as damaging because to them, this is just gonna be like the normal as is, right? Once
yeah,
this, like, so like it's really weird. I think the messaging did more to harm them than the actual change does. To be honest with you, like between like the very like we found players were just overwhelmed and then it's like the clarification which was really stupid, and it just seems like if they just say, hey guys, we want to change this to bring it more in line with our design philosophy of the game, and also doing this, we noticed a bug with Kate's leveling that we are taking out. We are open to feedback on this, so let us know, on the 18th if this is something you guys support. Like, you know what I mean? Be like me more open and honest. Like, I totally understand that. Like, maybe if they just threw this in a patch and didn't fucking tell anybody, will people have noticed? Yeah, probably. I imagine a lot of people would have noticed. Would it have caused this much stir? No. But I also think the messaging did more damage than the actual change will do to the game, right? Like, it
yeah,
just seems like once again, they try their best, and like, don't get me wrong, week in and week out, I'm on these guys every week for communicating, right? And when I initially read the blog post, I was like, oh, okay, like this is gonna have to like satisfy two things in my framework. It was the time that it takes to level can't be out of whack, right? So now it's like 3 to 5 hours to hit on top of, I think it's like 3 to 5 hours on top of normal time, right? Am I correct on that? Or is it just so it's like normally
um,
it took Bob 4 hours and he had 3 to 5 hours. So I guess to hit 70 or 50, it'd be 7 hours, I guess. Like, so
yeah,
like sure, whatever. And then the other one was that it has to pass the play test, right? Like I got to be able to play this and still have some fun, right? So with that being said, I can't know 100% if I'm agreeing with this until the 18th. But at this point in time, I don't look at this change and think like the world's ending. You know what I mean? Like I look at this change and I'm like, okay, extra 3 to 5 hours, not the greatest thing. Obviously, it may suck for new players, but I just don't know if this is the change that's going to bring down the game. Like I've seen. You know what I mean? Like, and to the
yeah.
credit, they just don't do themselves enough. Like they just don't communicate clearly enough. Like it's another day, another story where it's like they bungle their communication, and because of that, we're stuck here talking about something that really should be a non-issue, you know?
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, like, and again, I think that there is this game has to appeal to such a wider variety than any other looter does because of the IP, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna have kids playing this game, right? You're gonna have young teenagers, maybe some who have never touched or not never touched, but hardly play games. You know what I mean? The Call of Duty, FIFA boys with their Doritos and Mountain Dew think, okay, Marvel, yes, picking that up, right? Avengers and stuff, playing it. They don't give a shit about loot. They just want to be superheroes and stuff. But then you've also got the hardcore looter people. There's so many people to please that I think that the best way to treat the Marvel's Avengers, and this goes for just everything really, is
Mm-hmm.
and but this situation really helped me see that is think about how it will affect you personally. Me, say obviously the cosmetic thing as well, they're kind of removing a lot of stuff before fixing it. I have all the cosmetics I want from Chastity. I've leveled up all my heroes. Uh Clint, they're adding a lot with Clint, so I'm more than happy to spend more time with Clint. You know what I mean? Because the content follows the leveling thing. So for me, I lose no sleep,
Yeah.
right? And that's the thing. But obviously, yes, you can sympathize with people that maybe like, dude, that sucks. I've got all these other people to level and stuff like that. Like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
great, I have to do that side of it. Totally understand. Don't think it's the end of the world, even if you haven't done all that. If you I always find the game to actually be better before you've got your big builds because then everything is evenly matched together, if that makes sense. So I had more fun with Kate before she got to 150 and level 50 because now I have to use an exact build. So I can only use scatter arrows now, right, for the build that I have. Whereas when I was leveling her and getting a power level and level up, I could use everything. Oh, I locked a skill. I'm going to try that for a bit. Oh, it's really fun. Oh, look, I'm doing all the stun damage. But then when you get up to the end game for the characters, you find yourself being a bit one dimensional. So I think allowing players to have that time to experiment, like, because when I did with Kate, I had a lot of fun with it, with the teleportation intrinsics and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so for me, personally, the change, I mean, it's not like amazing, like, oh wow, longer
Right.
XP grind, great,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's nothing that's gonna make me think, oh, this game's the worst, right?
Right.
Uh, the Discord statement thingy-majig was off
Oh,
by
I
a
mean,
lot.
I can get back into that. I mean, I did a video on it. I have no problem getting into that. But yeah, please.
I watched you on Miller stream, man. It was it was great.
Oh yeah, like
Your
oh
smile with the patches.
okay, like for full transparency, I was on Miller's stream a few nights ago when this all kind of went down, and I was needless to say under the influence. It was 10 o'clock at night. I was kind of enjoying just the night hanging out, right? And then
Yeah.
the Discord went off, the subreddit went off, and I'm thinking, what the hell is this, right? So I threw up a video, and if you guys watch that video, you'll probably notice that I'm just not right there in that video. And to be fair, I really wasn't, but I was holding it together. And then later on that night, Miller's like, dude, do you want to come on and talk about this? And I was like, yeah. And I can't remember a lot of that conversation, but I'm pretty sure I kind of went in a little bit on them. No, like you might remember
Yeah.
more of it than I do, but I think
Yeah.
I think I went in on them over this a little bit.
My highlight of it was just watching you with the biggest fucking smile, and everyone in the chat's like, "Tell him, King," and you're just there with the biggest smile on your face, eating your sweets. And like, I'll be perfectly honest with the conversation. That was my focus of just how smug you looked while having this chat. It was great,
Well,
but
okay. I mean, to be fair, like I understand. There's like two ways to look at it, right? Obviously, when you get criticism from like outside of your own sphere, right? So a lot of the criticism was coming from PC Gamer, Jason Schreier, Greg Miller, right? So there was a lot of outside pressure on this change. But the response to that is not to put something in an insular community like your Discord or your subreddit, right? To me, when you're getting outside criticism, it's to put it um outside of your community, right? Your community is going to
Oh
find your
yeah, no, you're
information,
spot
right?
on
So
with
like,
that. Yeah.
when at 10 o'clock at night, I'm chilling. I was eating Sour Patch Kids. I was hanging out. I was just kind of watching some Twitch and some YouTube, and like I see all of a sudden there's a Discord post, and like the Discord post, or yeah, the Discord announcement really just it blew me away. And like, to be fair, I actually went back the day after and I read it again just to make sure, like, Under the Influence me and Sober me had the same thoughts. And Sober me actually was a lot more angry than Under the Influence me. Because I looked at it, I was like, this just comes off like even more condescending than the original blog post was, right? Like,
Yeah,
the
it's
first one's like, oh, like we don't want players to be overwhelmed. This one is like, oh, like, here, now we're gonna actually talk to you like you're an equal person to like us, and we're gonna actually explain to you why now we're making these changes. Like, whoever wrote that, and once again, I don't think it was anyone in the community team, just saying, I wouldn't go to Andy, Layla, or Phil in the streams and be like, hey guys, I know you wrote that announcement. No,
yeah, no,
they
you
didn't,
should,
they
yeah,
didn't.
yeah, no, no,
um
definitely not.
no, they
No,
didn't.
it's
That came from a, I
that's a
was gonna
dude in a suit. That's what that is.
that is someone who makes probably 4 or 5 times more than what I make currently, who wrote that. And it to me, it just screamed talking down to your players. And I, like I said, I don't remember what I said on Miller's stream, but I would have to think that I went in a little bit on them, because like that's embarrassing. Like, there's so much about that is so embarrassing right now. And once again, like, I give credit where credit's due, right? So if they're gonna talk about changes
Yeah,
ahead of time, totally cool. I love it. I said in that first video, I said they need graphs, they need data, they need something to support what they're saying here, so players don't get the wrong impression. What happened? Players got the wrong impression. News articles got the wrong impression. Everyone got the wrong impression of the changes. I said, if you don't put supporting information there, people are gonna think you're gonna extend your grind like to like a mountainous level, right? To be fair, to some people, 3 to 5 extra hours could be mountainous, but it's not the end of the world. But by the time they had already put out that information, and that information was solely focused inside of their own communities, the damage was already done. It was done. Now, to be fair, I
yeah.
think there was a Eurogamer article that came out today that does reference that post, but it's already over. The conversation's done. Like, you're like, you've done two things. You've damaged your outside look again, right? Like, now people have something else to attack this game of, and you've done nothing to satisfy the concerns of the player base, because you've just taken too long. Like, you can't, like, they can't get ahead of this narrative. It's embarrassing at some point to like look at the communication and the PR strategy of this game and to say like, yeah, like, they're doing a great job. They're not. Like, I hate it. Like, I absolutely hate it. I hate the red tape. I hate whoever's making the decisions of communication. Whoever is in charge of that, I'm sorry, step aside. Let someone else take a hold of the reins on this one, because every time
Well,
they go one step forward, it's 2 steps back. You know,
yeah. I
like,
think
once
a
again,
point that like, sorry,
yeah,
you're
go
right in
go
the
go.
flow. I
Yeah,
don't want to ruin it.
no, you're good.
One thing that I remember from that stream, and Miller said this very well. He was like, "Look, we know it's we know we know it's really what's the word? Really tempting. That's it. Really I can't believe that. It looks really tempting to go and annoy someone from Crystal Dynamics or something, but the dude in the suit needs to fucking step aside and just let them work. Let them
Mm.
do what they need to do. And I was like, I mean, yeah, like that is the speech, right? Like
And
this
yeah, no, sorry,
there's
you keep
so
going.
there is so much like when you speak to people or you watch something from say that Hannah that was on Revealing Too Much's stream
Mm-hmm.
and she's talking about the story writing, there's a lot of passion there. Like you
Mm-hmm.
cannot fake passion, and it was
Yep.
and that's I just it was oozing and it was really lovely to see. But you can see that, like, for example, when Phil and Anthony go on, that there's passion there, but there's this dark cloud of corporate
Yep.
over their heads that's like, don't you fucking talk about that. And it's
Yep.
like I feel awful for him because Phil especially Phil, is like a kid in a candy shop when something is ready and he's like, yeah, fuck. You know what I mean? I'm gonna rebel and gonna
Mm-hmm.
hint at this one thing. The Iron Man skin that they couldn't talk about, but Phil decided, no, what, fuck it, I'm gonna spill the beans because they seem so withheld. That for Phil to be able to say that was like a dream come true, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then it became infamous Iron Man, and then it's like now the dudes in the suits can be like, we see why we tell you not to say these things,
Yeah.
and it's
Yep.
like, but you know what I mean? But it was probably amazing for him to be able to go, oh, I can tell you about skin. Okay, let's hype it up. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And it's a really difficult, awkward scenario because Crystal Dynamics, you'd imagine, this is so weird for them. Like just going back, like Tomb Raider, it is that was their shit pretty much beforehand. Like, and that you can bet there was a lot less of these corporate problems with Tomb Raider. Whereas Avengers, you've got Marvel, you've got Square Enix, you've got the sponsors, you've got Sony, blah blah blah.
Yep.
All these men and women in suits telling them what they should do for their game, when the very core of it has this beautiful, passionate craft like the combat and the story,
Mm-hmm.
and you've got the surrounding shell, right, of
Yep.
just, okay, we need Spider-Man because Sony said so. You need to make this for, and you need to connect it to Intel, aka the custom harm rooms.
Yep.
Uh, all right, guys, make some PlayStation avatars for your 5 gun promotion. Do this, do that. I'll make these skins for Verizon and Virgin Media,
Yep.
internet providers and all that. And it's like, if you scrapped all that and just let them work on what
Yep.
they want this game to be, obviously with some input from Marvel, because it would be literally impossible, like,
Right.
then this game would already probably be so much in a better place than what it is. And even though, yes, we're all very quick to hound on, and rightfully so, by the way, because we're the
Mm-hmm.
consumers. Do you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? We're not
Yep.
behind the scenes, but I think that sometimes it is good to take a step back and think, even though the game is in a bad spot, Crystal Dynamics were a single player game developer who are now developing a live service multiplayer Marvel's Avengers game with about 20 different sources of suits coming to tell them what they should and shouldn't do, while they're
Sure.
probably fighting their own corner with minimal power, in their hands. And I think that, with things like that, like you said, no way Andy, Layla, or Phil wrote that. It was some dude in a suit making them look like shit.
Well, and to your
And
credit, and to your credit, it's why I don't talk about content anymore. Like I want this content fast or whatever. Because at the end of the day, like I like as I said earlier this week, I can't make any of them work faster. I can't make any of them work harder. Because if I did, it's almost equivalent to slave labor at that point, right? Like I imagine they're working, whatever it is, 8-hour days, 9-hour days, 10-hour days, right? Like, so for me, I can't harp on them about content. I can harp on them about communication, right?
oh yeah, for sure, yeah,
But yeah, to your credit, like it is what it is. But and let me tell you, when I read that Discord post, that subreddit announcement, to me, and I'm gonna say this, that didn't come from Marvel Games or Square Enix. That came from someone in Crystal Dynamics, and I'll put the YouTube channel on the line at this point. If I'm not right on that one, I would close up shop. I think that's someone from Crystal Dynamics. I'm not gonna publicly say who I think it is, but to me, that is someone who is more in line with that change, and felt personally attacked from the feedback to that change, and felt like they had to come out and say it, so they went over the community team. I don't think
okay,
that's someone from Square. I don't think that's someone from Marvel, because at the end of the day, they don't really care about an XP change. Maybe Square to a degree, if you're of the belief that Square is
yeah,
telling them that they need more player engagement. So Crystal at that point is like, okay, to do that, we have to kind of increase the XP grind. Maybe if you subscribe to that theory, maybe. To me, this is someone who felt personally attacked by the feedback to the change, and they said, okay, I'll write the statement. There's a reason why that statement is on accounts that haven't been used in months, right? The Discord is Play
yeah,
Avenger, the subreddit is Play Avenger, because whoever wrote it doesn't want to be publicly attached to that, but personally they felt pretty attacked by the feedback to it. And that to me is Weasley. I'm just gonna say it. I get it. I get it. If you work on something and someone doesn't like it, you're gonna attack. If someone comments on a video and says, "Hey John, hey Hyrule, that video fucking sucked," yeah, of course I'm gonna take
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
gonna, you
It's
know what I
gonna,
mean? But like,
yeah, like if
I'm not
fucking,
gonna go on like my burner account and be like, "Hey dude, listen, you know why that video came out the way it did," and list out a bunch of reasons. I'm gonna publicly go out
yeah.
there and be like, "This is why the video came out how it is. If you don't like it, I'm sorry, but like this is the choice we're making." But I'm
Well,
open to feedback. So if you have some
yeah,
feedback for
yeah.
me after the 18th, let me know and we'll talk about it. You know what I mean? Like it's
Well,
Weasley.
let's reference back to a video that you did make. Okay,
Okay.
let's
Uh oh.
and you did an interview with Andy,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
Now,
Yeah. I
you're
mean, if you want
the
to put me on the spot for it, yeah, go for it.
no, but here's the thing. Like, I mean, obviously, I don't know the full story because we've never had this conversation before. But like in the comments, I was gutted for you, mate. Like honestly, the people were expecting you to come out and fucking be able to make Andy talk about like things in like a year from now, right? And it just wasn't that. It was never going to be that sort of interview. But you
Mm-hmm.
still took it on the chin, and you were like, "Look, I'm sorry. This is just not really what I was going for here. I just wanted to talk with the dude, but you know." Outside of the role, so to speak, right? Just like I wanted
Sure.
to have a chat with Andy, sort of person Andy is, just get to know
Mm-hmm.
him as a person, and the thing is that like I enjoyed the interview. I wasn't
Mm.
expecting Andy to reveal Captain Marvel or anything like that, right?
Yeah.
So and the thing is, but because you got that criticism, you responded to pretty much everyone, and just saying, look, this wasn't that sort of thing. I am sorry, you know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
you handled it really well. Whereas obviously, but you're also one man with this YouTube channel,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Whereas they're like this fucking entire company where it could have been like they could have gotten the cleaner if they were
Sure.
in a studio. They're not at the minute, but they could have gotten the cleaner to just be like, right, go on, chat some shit on the Discord. Obviously,
Right.
didn't do that. But
Right.
my point is that there was someone on there who, like you said, felt a bit bothered because you can tell by the first part where it's like, we get it,
Yeah. Yep.
we get it.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
It's
And
once
it's
again talking down. Like that to me is talking
yeah.
down. You know what I mean? Yeah. Sorry. Continue.
Whereas like for you, when that scenario happened, it was literally like you put your hands behind your back and just let people fucking beat the shit out of you because like whereas on obviously on that Discord announcement thing, it was literally like they wanted to fight back from the
Yes.
criticism, but they
Yes.
were like, I can't. We obviously they can't do that, so
Right.
they had that little look. We get it. Shut up, sort of
Yeah.
thing. Like,
Yeah.
and then they went into the rest of their thing, and I totally understand that, but I think that feeling that was oozing with like one person's decided to just overthrow uh the community team. If you do believe it is someone from Crystal Dynamics, I have an idea of who you think it is. Obviously I'm not gonna say it,
Mm-hmm.
but um I would think that ideally they were bagging on these next few announcements like custom harm rooms and stuff to really, and the cosmetic change that they for some reason smothered at the bottom, even though that's the most probably positive part of it all, but they decided to just smother it at the bottom. But um, of this entire thing as sort of something to take people's mind off it. Um, I think if the game was full of content, I think if the game had a lot to do, I think if they announced a bunch of stuff for Clint beforehand, like custom harm rooms, as
Mm-hmm.
in because they've announced the date now, obviously we'll talk
Yes.
about that
Yes.
soon, but and stuff like that, and obviously campaign replay, which fingers crossed. I think it's pretty much all but confirmed in my brain anyway.
Yeah.
But for March 18th, and and if they did all that and then went, okay, here's like we explained, it's not how it was meant to be, it's not our philosophy. We apologize. We're up for feedback, so on and so forth. But here's what is going to happen, and then they do the cosmetic change. Cool. Didn't
Yep.
end up like that. They did it. They did it in a really weird time. Almost tried to hide it, and they
Mm-hmm.
did a really weird reply to it. It didn't work out. I totally understand why the communication was very off on that one. But
Yeah.
hopefully they they take things like that on board and they realize that they can't snap back at people because the game is in no position to be like that. It's like when Apex Legend devs, when a long, long time ago, and I remember some developers from Apex Legends were like pretty much arguing with fans that didn't agree to pay for a certain thing,
Right.
and it it was bad. Like, and you
Right.
know what I mean, like this was like an insult away from being like a vague post on Facebook sort of thing, especially that beginning part of like, we get it. So
Yeah.
it
I mean,
was,
like
yeah,
to me, this was like two mainstream news publications away from being like the Star Wars Battlefront. What is it like? Pride? Like we want to give our players a sense of pride and accomplishment, or whatever the quote was, right? Like this to me felt like
yeah.
we were like two news articles away from this being like as big as that in some degree. Like it just felt like I don't know, I mean, it just feels like if the original blog post had enough information to kind of clarify what they were doing and why they were doing it, we avoid this whole thing. You know what I mean? Like we avoid this whole scenario. And we're not talking about this. We're talking about the change and the data behind the change. And we're not talking about the shitstorm that came because of it. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I think if there's one thing that they need to learn, they need to learn that players aren't allergic to numbers. That players aren't allergic to data. Players aren't allergic to actually like having information thrown at them, right? Regardless of what they
Well,
say about skill points, like if you say like, "Hey guys, like here's kind of the curve that it is right now. Here's kind of the curve that we're going for, and what this means is that over the course of an average play span, here's kind of what you're looking at achieving on March 18th, for example." If they go with that and they give enough supporting information, players look at that, and it's not arguing about the tone of the message or the clarification. It's actually talking about the curve and that point, and then you can get into different conversations at that point, right? Maybe this is too long. Maybe you need to increase this by this amount of percentage or that amount of percentage. It's a totally different conversation at that point, and one that's probably a lot more civil than like a clapback or an attempt at a clapback by the official Play Avenger account, which is hiding in plain sight. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's a totally different scenario depending on how they approach these communication efforts.
and it's funny how you say like the players aren't allergic to numbers, because a big complaint that come out with the game was all the resources we have to like look at and learn about, and all the gear that we have to read, because obviously there's no like visual difference,
Mm-hmm.
and and everything else. Like, there is a lot that we as players just playing the game have to read through anyway. So graphs and stuff like that is just past the parcel with the sort of philosophy that they clearly are okay with, because there's like 8 different resources that we need to collect for different things that we have to read into. There's
Mm-hmm.
gear that we have to like look at numbers and stats, like 16.2%
Mm-hmm.
ranged crit for damage buffs and stuff like that. Like, it's all numbers, graphs, and everything on how we have to play.
Yep.
And if they and it's like with the skill points, even though it's slower, there still gets to a point where we have to read through them anyway. You know what I mean? Like, it still
Mm-hmm.
gets to a point where we have to pick and choose. So
Yeah.
you can't stop that. Unless
No.
you add like an auto spend button or something,
Yeah.
then it's one of them scenarios where like you've got all of this in the game, seeing these stats and statistics, because it's only the hardcore player base that are going to be bothered by this change, because obviously casuals aren't going to read Jason Schreier and all that and people like that. And when I say casuals, I mean literally people that have gone into the shop, seen Marvel and picked it
Oh,
up,
just
right?
picked it up. Yeah. Sure. 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 Sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Um. So, like, people who are deep with the community and deep into just gaming in general, especially on social media, those are the people that will look at this change, and therefore those are the people that will be able to consume these numbers and graphs better than the sort of audience that it felt like they were aiming that statement towards.
Mm-hmm.
If
Yeah.
that makes sense,
No, you're
you know.
right. It's just everything about it is just bizarre. Like just absolutely bizarre from like top to bottom. And I said it I said it today. I said PR and communicate, or not today, but I said a few days ago. I said regardless of the content arguments, regardless of the skin arguments, regardless of anything else, I feel like if you're looking at one thing that could easily sink this game, it's the PR and communication, right? Like there are certain things behind the content delays. There are certain things behind skins and the way that they're reusing assets, right? And you could trace that all back to work issues, right? When I look at the PR and communication, the only thing I see is a bunch of red tape and people who don't really know what the community wants to know. And to me,
Mm.
that is the problem with this game. And that is the biggest issue. We understand that things are delayed, and you're going to have people who are like, this delayed, that delayed, this. Sure, I get it. But if you're able to kind of respond to these people, to give updates, normal updates, to give kind of an idea of what you're working on, and like that's a systemic issue top to bottom. That to me, if you're talking about content communication, that's systemic. When you're talking about issues with bugs, patches, changes to XP, for example, that is not systemic. And if it is systemic, it's systemic to maybe Square, but more often than not, that's Crystal Dynamics. And that's the problem. Is I like with some things I'm okay with throwing the blame at Square and Marvel Games, because to talk about content and new characters, that's you have to go through Marvel. But when it comes to something like this and this week, I'm looking solely at Crystal Dynamics, and maybe I have a half eye going towards Square Enix, depending on what is the true meaning of this change. Now, like I said, if you subscribe to the theory that this is all about player engagement and they need players to be more engaged with the content, yeah, sure, maybe Square kind of threw this change at Crystal and said you got to figure this out. But the communication side of this really just absolutely falls on Crystal. And once again, I'm actually of the group that says this change isn't that bad. This change to me doesn't scream the world is falling, but it's the communication that really makes it seem like the world is falling, and it's
Yeah,
brutal.
yeah,
And I can't say I would go in there and do any better, because I'd be subject to the same issues that is facing a lot of the people there. But as an outsider looking in, it's just bad. It's just bad. And once again, I should never be 10 o'clock at night having a news update from my favorite game while I'm not in the right state of mind. If you're publishing something at 10 o'clock at night, you're avoiding the news coverage, 100%.
yeah. No,
Like
for
you're you're
sure. Yeah,
you're
yeah.
you're avoiding the news coverage, right? Your goal of that is to hide in plain sight and to say, "Oh, but we did respond." Well, you didn't actually respond, because no one outside of your hard community actually gives a fuck about your response. If you actually wanted to give a response, you would have contacted these publications. You would have contacted the writers. You would have put something on your official social media channels, which lots of people follow, but you didn't. And that's the problem.
Yeah.
That's the
See,
problem.
now here's the thing. Like, again, because this was quite a hidden reply,
Mm-hmm.
it makes me wonder that there feels like there is so much more to it than what we think. And I know that it's right to have the eyes on CD here, but because it was such a hidden reply, and because it just seems like it was like, and the initial post was at a weird time as well,
Mm-hmm.
it feels like, I don't know. I don't want to go into conspiracy theories, but it just feels like maybe CD got a message of like, okay, so clearly the biggest thing we've heard is that content, we need more content. So how about you slow this content, right? So how about throw a spanner in the works and try and make people maybe last on the things just a little bit longer? And then CD were like, okay, we need to, right. Well, first of all, we can't have that cake bug anymore, because
Mm-hmm.
I'll be honest with you. I think if in my hypothetical universe, if they didn't get any sort of contact, they probably would have just left that bug, because it took them a while to mention it, right? It's
Yeah.
March now, and it was December Cake came out, so they had at least, they've had at least, oh God, 3 months worth of data for that to
Mm-hmm.
collect. You know what I mean? So I think they would have left it, but I have a feeling that maybe someone might have gone to them and been like, "Look, guys, Clint cannot be leveling up any faster here. You know what I mean? We need people to stick around a bit longer, right? Because we had a bit of an up with Kate, but that went down very quick. But it's a different scenario with Clint, because it seems like there's a lot more coming with Clint. So
Yeah.
fingers crossed. And the thing is, as well, is just going on custom hires before we speak about it for a little
Mm-hmm.
bit.
Yeah.
Um, do we get XP from there? Because if we do, stack a fucking large amount of enemies in there, and you might already be level 50 by the time you're done. You
I
know
mean,
what
well,
I
that's
mean?
that's an interesting thing about the change too, is that in the change it says higher. What is it? Higher, um, more challenging enemies will give more XP or something. So like
Yeah,
technically,
yeah,
you could technically, it might take a while because you may not be as powerful, but you could actually just stack a bunch of enemies in the custom harm room and just get XP that way. Maybe
yeah.
that's the workaround for it. Um, but yeah, let's get into the kind of everything upcoming here. But before we kind of jump topics here, is there anything else you want to say about kind of this week in the XP rework and everything to do with that, or are you kind of okay with what we said?
I think that just to go back to what I said at the beginning, the best way to look at this game, obviously, unless you're people like us that talk about the community, response to things,
Mm-hmm.
is just does it affect you? Yes. Okay. Why? You know what I mean? Then convey that feedback. If it
Yeah.
doesn't, then but everyone's still angry, because obviously there was a lot of like negativity surrounding it. But if it doesn't affect you, and if you love the game and it was one of them sort of things where you're like, I don't really see what people are moaning about, then just take a step away from that group of that area and just enjoy the game. You know what I mean? Like we're 10 days away from Clint. Like if you thought to yourself, don't really care about the change, the cosmetic thing sounds like they're on the right track. uh and you sort of think to yourself, like, I don't want people telling me I'm wrong, because obviously we know how hostile people get when some negativity arises. Then just
Mm-hmm.
focus on you, and it's as simple as that. you know.
Cool. Sounds good to me. All right. Well, now let's get into what is kind of making of a big day on the 18th is that custom harm rooms are now confirmed for the 18th, which is now next gen launch, future imperfect, and now custom harm rooms. So, what do you make of custom harm rooms? And now, what are you making of it coming on the 18th as well?
I mean, first of all, the fact that it's coming on the 18th was a big surprise to me. I
Mm-hmm.
actually, even though it's supposed, you'd imagine that anything that they announce now would most likely be on the 18th. There was always that sort of thing of like, this seems a bit like not far away, but it just feels like something that I couldn't imagine they would announce 10 days before
Yeah.
the release date of it, right? But then again, uh, Clint was very far away once upon a time, and we're slowly getting this build up of hype around it. Custom harm rooms, they're replaying the campaign soon, which I mean, fingers crossed, they're going to be announcing campaign replay. Um, it looks like we've got a lot to buy into on Hawkeye Day. You know what I mean? And there's
Yeah.
there's initiative stuff coming with Clint. Like there's the villain sectors. I imagine they're going to use the wastelands for more things. I'm assuming it'll just be in the general initiative rotation. So there's a lot of fresh stuff coming into Clint, which
Mm-hmm.
I'm really hoping that people will acknowledge that. And even if it's not something they want, at least understand this is at least new content, which was the biggest complaint. Custom harm rooms, for me personally, look really, really fun. I mean, I'm going to put it on challenge one because I just want to like watch a bunch of robots go
Wow.
flying. I want to go in with Hulk, put it on large, like large, extra large enemies, put it on challenge one so they're really, really easy, and thunderclap them all and watch them go flying. That will satisfy me.
You're unbelievable. You know that, right? Like, out of everything you do, you go for a challenge. You could test your abilities. You could test your might as a player. And you're telling me you want to go in there and just clap a bunch of robots in challenge one?
It'd be funny.
You're unbelievable. You're
They'll go
unbelievable.
flying. It's great.
No, I mean, to your point though, like it definitely does seem like the 18th is going to be kind of a meaty day, comparatively to Kate, comparatively to any other day since launch, really. It does seem like the 18th is kind of like it does seem like ideally the 18th could be a turning point for the game. I'm of the belief that tomorrow they are going to announce campaign replay. It doesn't make sense to me that they're going to replay the campaign for 3 days leading into Hawkeye's showcase,
Yeah,
and then they're
yeah,
going to be like, "Yeah, guys, campaign replay. Yeah, yeah, you guys are going to get that in like a
it's on
month
the
from now."
way.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Let's talk about communication at that point. Like, that's a like you're getting kicked in
Yeah.
the nuts at that point, right? Like, To me, it seems like you're gonna have custom harm rooms, which to me they do look fun. Not something I'm gonna spend a considerable amount of time, but they do look fun. You have campaign replay, which once again, not technically for me. I mean, it doesn't matter, but for
It's
someone out there,
definitely it's
they're
something
gonna
for
look at
me for
campaign
sure.
replay.
Like I
Yeah,
like.
someone out there or a whole lot of people are gonna look at campaign replay and be like, "This is great. I can't wait for this." So that's two things. Then you have Future Imperfect, a new biome, new villain sectors, Hawkeye. Like there is quite a bit there, and you can only hope that maybe that isn't the end of the announcements. Now, if it is, that's still a meaty day. Like there's still quite a
Yeah,
bit
like
there, right? Like
there's
yeah,
for sure, yeah. Like there's and the thing is, I think that they'll start off with the campaign not well, yeah, campaign replay stream by literally showing how we're going to be able to replay the campaign. Like it'll
yeah,
open up with the menu, they'll
yep,
go over the campaign thing, and it will be like, replay the campaign option, and they'll be like, huh, surprise, you know what I mean? And they'll use that as the way to
yeah,
show off the campaign. So they can also show it off and be like, look how bug free this is. Do you know what I mean? We're playing this. That's how, like, and you know what I mean? Like, and they'll do it in that way. And I think that that would be really sick. But I
but
think that it sounds like an incredibly oh no, this isn't a bad but guys, no.
okay, okay, okay,
It sounds like an incredibly like meaty day with just being able to level up a character, challenge cards, if you're willing to put the cost for the premium, story, villain sectors, campaign replay. Again, that's speculation, but come on. Like
yeah,
custom harm rooms, there's a lot to be excited for, and it seems like a good couple of weeks of content, and at least I think so. And hopefully that will give them enough time to then release all this other stuff. Unless that's not it for the announcements. We still don't know how meaty this is going to be even now, And I would like to get to a point where they've revealed so much for Clint. We'll be we'll be asking them for fucking surprises on the day. Like, don't tell us anymore. God,
yeah,
let's you know what I mean. Let's see what we get
hmm
on the day. And that's quite a cool thing that this game hasn't really had yet. And it's if people can get stuck into it for a good couple of weeks, that allows them to play catch up while we're all happy with our new fresh content. And obviously then hopefully they fix the multiplayer stuff, unless this update has something that will do that. You know what I mean? I know LTs come shortly afterwards. It could be hype. We
yeah.
could be getting a lot to
I mean,
talk about.
like I said, I totally just I go hard on these guys for communication, but I also give credit where credit's due. I really do think the 18th is going to be a fun day. If you're a fan of this game, the 18th is probably going to be a fan of this game. If you're a fan of, or it's going to be like a great day. If you're a fan of harm rooms, well, custom harm rooms are going to be fun. If you're a fan of the campaign replay, well, that's going to be fun for you too. Like it seems like there's going to be a lot of everything on the 18th for anyone who still plays this game. If you're looking for like the
Hmm.
multiplayer stuff, yeah, I mean, chances are probably not going to come, right? Like, am I going to put, am I going to Vegas and say, hey guys, like, what are the odds of this? And I'm going to put $1,000 down on it? No, because that's the $1,000 that I'm probably going to lose. But, you never know. You really just never know. But other than that, the 18th for me is going to be a fun day. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of money spent, to be quite honest with you. But it's going to be a lot of fun regardless because it's new stuff to do. It's a new reason to log in. It's more to do with the game, and that's really what I'm looking for right now. Like I could do the
Yeah.
meta analysis, I can do the meta commentary, I can do all that. That's fine. But at the end of the day, as someone who just wants to play the game, I'm just looking for things to do. And at least on the 18th, I'm gonna get that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a lot of there's just there really is just a lot to do, and the thing is, as someone who enjoys like building characters and stuff like that, it's like you've not just got all that. Then at the end, you've got to grow. You've got your grinding of the character and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
looking for the build you want to go for and stuff like that. Like you said, there seems to be something for everyone on March 18th.
Yeah.
Besides the guys who are proper into the multiplayer side of it,
Yeah.
which I mean, I don't think that's that far away, but again, that's speculation, and I don't want to like get people excited for it to just be
Sure.
like, oh, Cloning Labs is very far away.
Yeah.
It could be a nice surprise. I mean, it's a Thursday. right?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I
Yep.
mean? They could just be like, "Ha, cloning labs next day," right? But I mean, that would be
I mean, I do have that Friday off as well. I mean, that sounds like a long time of gaming. You know what I mean? Like, to be honest with you, like,
that'd be a good week. That'd
yeah.
be a
Well, I
good
mean,
time.
regardless of like when Clone Labs is coming, I mean, to me personally, that's going to be like a lot of time spent on that game. You know, like for me, Clone Labs is like the one thing that I'm looking forward to the most because it's going to give me the most like engagement with the game. You know, the one thing I always worry about when it comes to DLC drops like this, and I said this before Kate came out, it's like hype, 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 and then the hype is at the most when the character releases, and then it drops very quickly. With them releasing custom harm rooms, with them releasing campaign replay, I hope the drop isn't as bad as it was with Kate, because like very quickly
Mm.
it seemed like the honeymoon period was very quickly over. You know what I mean? Um,
Well, I
yeah,
think that
please.
I think a reason for that was that Kate was leveling up really fast.
Sure, sure.
People were getting the higher power levels because again at that point we knew how to get gear
Mm-hmm.
because we've already done it with six other characters. Well, most have already done it with six other characters, and
Yeah.
and obviously the story was only like a few hours long, and no initiative content came out after that. So it was
Mm-hmm.
there was not a lot to get stuck into anyway. Whereas this seems like a totally different scenario where like there's going to be at least a week of no life in Marvel's Avengers to really get the most out of
Mm-hmm.
everything that they're releasing. So that sounds
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, I agree with you. So, to sum up March 18th, what are some ways you would sum up March 18th, or what are some ways you'd sum up your excitement towards March 18th?
Um, I like to see it as a potential relaunch, which is why they're
Mm-hmm.
stuffing a lot into this one day.
Mm-hmm.
Um, which makes me excited. So excited for potential relaunch. There we
Okay.
go.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, if I was gonna sum it up, I'd say excited for the future. I guess. Like, I mean, I look at the 18th as sort of like a relaunch, but I don't really look at it as a relaunch because like there's still some things missing. Obviously, like we're looking at like a Gear 2.0. We're still looking at like a proper multiplayer endgame. But what I will say is that this looks towards like a good step one. You know what I mean? Like, um, it's always about the second step, right? You can hit that first step, but if you can't get that second step down, then the first step is like utterly meaningless, right? So great first step here on the 18th. I think there's enough for everybody to look at that and say like I can have fun with this game on the 18th. It's just like what's next. And with that being said, like it's like campaign replay, custom harm rooms, future and perfect. When do we get that roadmap? You know what I mean? Like now it's like we're getting all these features. We're on our second DLC, and we're still kind of missing that roadmap. And that's kind of where my head goes when I'm looking at all these things being announced. Is like where's the rest of it? Where's the information of like what to expect for the rest of the year? You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I mean, we have a lot of streams coming up this
Mm-hmm.
week.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a lot of potential here to really dive in. I mean, obviously we cannot be upset with them for not doing more than just playing the campaign and showing off Hawkeye's
Yes.
combat and
Yes.
talking with the
Because that's
team.
all they've announced it
Just
as. That's all they've
that is
announced it as.
that's all they've announced it as. So I'm not expecting any sort of surprise roadmap or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But with all of this being packed into this day, I feel like they're going to try and move from any negative press, get people excited about all what they've got here. I think that the best time for a roadmap or best time to release one will be either shortly after Clint to keep the
Mm-hmm.
momentum going,
Mm-hmm.
or before. Maybe they'll
Oh,
do
like
it
next
during
next
the
week, for example.
yeah.
Okay.
Um, so obviously it's like, okay, hope you guys enjoy March 18th, but here's what's after March 18th. So while you're playing that, even if for some reason you manage to blast through everything in like a week, which I mean, I don't think even I'll be able to do that, but like, I think that, okay, so even after you've done that, here's what's next. Then you've got this, that, da, da, da. And that all, incentivize players to really get stuck in. And I think that
True.
that's a good way of doing it. So, uh,
True.
would I put money on it? No.
Yeah.
Would I think that's going to be a great business move to make people think, okay, I'm going to really try hard with Hawkeye then if in, I don't know, whatever month time, uh, PlayStation players get Spider Man, everyone else gets something else or whatever, and it's, oh, that sounds really cool. Okay, gonna maximum effort the Hawkeye stuff, and then you might even see a growth in players for a while of people coming back because there's a very bright on paper future that they themselves have said they're going to stick to.
Mhm.
So it's good momentum carrier. It's the
True.
roadmap is essentially a guiding torch.
True enough. All right. Well, I think what we should do now is I think we should do a few questions from the Discord, and then we'll go into final thoughts. What do you think?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do
Okay,
that. Unless
so
unless unless you were like, what do you think by your final thoughts? That's why the pause happened. I was like, wait, is he asking me
well,
for my final thoughts or is
no,
he
no, no,
asking
no,
me
no.
to
We'll
do
do
the
we'll do
quiz?
we'll do questions. We'll do questions, and then we'll do final thoughts. That's
Okay.
so
Okay.
we'll do a few questions. So, for anyone who doesn't know, there's an Assemble Podcast Discord. Inside of that, there's a channel called Assemble Podcast Questions. We have a few questions here. Well, we have more than a few, but we're gonna pick a few here. There, Jazzy Butters too, as well as Cage, have kind of thrown some questions at us, and we'll just kind of. I'm gonna pick two. Stardust, do you want to pick two, and then we'll just kind of go off
Yeah.
on them.
Sounds
All
good.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna pick. I don't know. I'm gonna pick two serious ones and then the joke one. I think. Do you plan on bringing more people to the podcast? So this is like just a very simple one. To be quite honest with you, when it comes to the podcast right now, I did have some plans before the Hawkeye announcement to do a community voices, and then kind of the way the community voices went, I those plans were kind of axed very quickly, because it just didn't seem like the writing on the wall just seemed like it wasn't the right time for that. Um, so maybe in the future, it totally depends on the fit. It totally depends on the questions. It totally depends on the I guess like the emotion level in the community. I don't want to bring on and do something and just kind of not read the room, I guess. So
Yeah.
maybe, I guess it totally depends. But I mean, to be fair, like right now, I think community voices is something I had plans for before the start of the new year, and then sometimes things don't work out the way you want them to. So we will see where that goes. Um, Next one is, why should we keep up hope for this game? So I'm not going to tell anyone to play a game they don't like. I'm not going to tell anyone to be involved with a game they don't like. I'm not going to try to sell anybody on a game that they don't enjoy. At the end of the day, it's a video game, right? If the game doesn't speak to you anymore, if the game isn't something that you want to play anymore, it's totally okay to kind of just put the game aside and come back to it at a later date, or maybe just never come back to it at all. I've always told people that there are so many cool games out there that why focus on one that you don't truly enjoy, you know? Um, Now, it's totally possible that, you put the game down and you come back to it and the game does speak to you. That's great. But if it doesn't, I mean, it happens. I've bought games. I bought Hyrule Warriors. I played it. It wasn't for me. I just moved on from it, right? Like, it's totally okay nowadays to just look at a game and say, this isn't for me, and just move on. But obviously, I want people to play the game. I want people to enjoy it. I want people to, just be engaged with the game. I think if you have any hope for the game at all, I want you in the community. I want you there to kind of, give your ideas, give your feedback, give kind of your two thoughts or 2 cents on kind of where you want the game to go, because I think this is a game that at the core of it does have potential to be something great, but it's going to take a lot. It's going to take a lot of work from Crystal Dynamics. It's going to take a lot of honest communication between the devs and the community, and it's going to take it will take a lot of work. But I for me, if I didn't see any hope in this game, if I didn't care about this game, regardless of the YouTube channel, I would have closed up. I would have said, at the end of the day, I just want to play a game that's fun. If I don't have fun with a game, I'm not going to waste my time. you know I'm getting old. I'm getting old, man. Like, I can't sit here and play stuff that's not fun for me. Like, I got other shit to do with my life. So for me, if you're someone like me and you just want to play a game that's fun, then play a game that's fun. If you see hope for the game, stick around. If you don't, I totally understand, and no one's gonna hold your feet to the fire and say you must be in the Marvel Avengers community. It's totally cool, man. It happens all the time. People grow out of love with the game. They grow into love with the game. It is what it is. And so yeah, so that's, I guess those are kind of where I'm at with that one in particular. What about you, Stardust?
Um, I think that that there's so many people that do all right with hating the game on social media with the numbers and so on, that I think that there's a yin and yang in the community where there's people who love it, people who don't.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to, I like the game. I like speaking to like-minded people. If you don't like the game, as long as you're not a dick and we talk, we get on, then
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind talking to you either. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, the thing is, a lot of people who I've seen that don't like the game like people to know they don't like the game, and that's when it gets a
Mm,
bit like eye rolly, like, oh, whatever. Do you know
sure.
what I mean? And being
Yeah.
being a wrestling fan, like, I've heard it all my life of how I shouldn't like wrestling, right? Because it's, oh yeah, whatever. And it's the same with like in Avengers. It's like, you like Avengers? Oh,
Yeah.
like that game's got no content, zero Marvel Loki, you know what I mean, and all that
Yeah.
shit. So I mean, like, as long as you respect what I like, then I'll do the same thing for you, and it's as simple as that. I can't force anyone to play the game, like you said, and it's just, yeah. If it gets to a point where you didn't like the game but like the game again, not going to say you can't join us because you
Yep.
weren't here since day one,
Yeah. Yeah.
like, and it's the same vice versa. I'm not going to cast you out as not my friend anymore because you've gone off the game. It's just a
I
game.
mean, I mean, to be fair, you live in a country where like the most played game is FIFA. I mean, no one in your country can really talk to you about bad games, right? Like,
Yeah,
or was
no.
that step too far? Step too far? Okay, step too far.
No. It's not. It's definitely not. I mean, look. At the end of the day, the typical, stereotypical teenager plays GTA, COD, FIFA. That's their gaming experiences, right? And those games are filled with microtransactions. They're the same pretty much every single year, especially COD and FIFA. Uh, it's I don't take their opinions to heart when it comes to gaming and stuff like that. You know what I mean? They're the
Yeah.
people that used to slag off anyone who would play Minecraft, but then you'll catch them at 3 a.m. on a PlayStation playing the, Skyblock or something. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not, whatever.
True.
if,
True. No,
if
I
it's
hear you.
popular, they'll play it.
Yeah, no, for sure. All right, let's go answer some questions, man.
All right, so the first one is, why are you so funny? So,
Oh God.
well, see, I was born this way. You know what I mean? Like, the moment I come out the womb, I was already a stand-up comedian, and I couldn't even stand up yet. I
I'm taking
I was.
applications for a new co-host. Anyone want to get in contact with me? Twitter.com/assemblecast. Thank you.
Oh, that's great. Well, I mean, it's funny because another question is, will you be starting your own podcast? So, I will not be starting my own podcast. I think that would be pretty rude. You
Yeah,
know?
pretty rude,
Like,
dude. Pretty rude.
sorry, man. I've
That's
Stardust podcast already got anyway. Scott Amos has decided
Really?
he'll
You're gonna go
decided
there, eh?
decided he'll pop on. Don't know what that's
Listen,
about. Anyway,
I'm at this point where I don't think anybody at Crystal Dynamics will ever come on this again. You know, I think I'm at that point. You know, so listen, maybe here's what we do.
okay.
Here's an idea. You start your own podcast, and I'm like a secret producer, right? I'm secret,
Yeah.
right? And then you bring on someone for Crystal Dynamics. We're not saying, Sama Sa, like I think that was like me trying to pronounce Scott Amos backwards, but like, maybe you bring him on, and I'm just kind of feeding you like little questions or whatever, and like, at the end of the day, people think it was you, you know.
Yeah, just hang on, Scott. I need to jump into this other Discord call a minute. Right, hi,
I'll
Rob.
be
What
like
are
in
the
your ear.
questions?
I'll be like an earpiece, like I'll be just feeding you, it'll work, dude. It'll work. So yeah, Stardust will be starting his own podcast soon. And if you're someone at Crystal Dynamics or Square Enix or Marvel Games, and you want to go on and talk about Marvel's Avengers, let them know.
Jesus.
Let them know.
Too much work for me, man. Too much work. I see all this time, like the like you said about having to like do something at like 10 at night while you're just having your break and stuff, and it's just no,
Well,
like not for me.
well, let me ask you about too much work and being busy. Let me ask you about the charity initiative you're running.
Okay.
Why don't you walk everybody through kind of what you're doing for the March 18th release date of Future Imperfect?
Okay, so I think it's probably best that I just start off with where the idea came from, and then I
Yeah.
can contextualize it like that. So originally, I was gonna do a thing where if I got 100 subscribers on my YouTube channel before the end of February, I was gonna do a 24-hour live stream. That happened very early on, so I was like, okay. And it was just going to be on my own. It was just going to be on Hawkeye Day, and I thought to myself, like, okay, uh, I was just looking through and I was just watching telly, and there was one of those adverts, of like just for cancer and stuff like that. And I thought to myself, like, rather than just do a generic 24-hour live stream, why don't I actually do it for something? So I went on Just Giving because that's the charity place that I know from when I when I tried to do white collar boxing once for charity, but that's a
Mm-hmm.
different story. Um, and I was looking through it all because I was looking for just ones that related to cancer, because I lost my uncle this year to cancer. So I thought, like, that sort of seems like an important thing to go for. And I saw Cancer Fund for Children, which is based in Ireland, but they do some stuff in Newcastle. They have a little like getaway place in Newcastle and stuff like that. So I read a little bit of it. I mean, the clue's in the name. Do you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
literally like, for trying to donate to people who, in families, are suffering with either a child that has cancer, or just trying to support a family that are suffering through cancer. So I was like, okay, well, that's perfect. So I thought at first it was just going to be me, myself, and I, just 24 hours, and then I want to give the credit to Dad Panther on the relay idea, actually,
Mm-hmm.
because I think I couldn't tell you where he said it, but I remember seeing the idea of a relay. So I was like, that sounds really good. But at first, I was a bit like, I don't really want to drag people into it. Everyone's probably busy. Hawkeye Day, a lot of coverage. You know what I mean? And I thought,
Yeah.
right, okay, I'll stick to it like on my own. But then I was just talking to some friends on a Discord, and they were like, what are you maybe you should think about trying to get other people involved. And I was like, you know what?
Why
It's for
not?
charity. Fuck it.
Yeah.
Why not? I'll get people involved. So I started out with this idea. I presented it to a few people like Calix, for example, and we went through, like, I come up with the sort of the idea of like let's get people involved. I presented the relay idea. Calix helped me out big time with it all. He's a robot. He's a master of this sort of stuff. Um, and we got to a point where we set up the schedule. I set up the Twitter account, set up the Twitch. Obviously, the donation page was already up, beforehand, and that's I came to you. I went to a bunch of other streamers, and I was just like, hey, do you fancy doing something for Hawkeye Day, with in regards to this charity event? And it's been a lot of sleepless nights trying to make sure that everything is organized and working well as not trying to lose sight of my own sort of stuff. But it's going to be worth it, man. Like, and I'm going to announce right now, because I was speaking to my fiance today, who suffers, or I mean, she's dead. She's 100% improved, but I think she would agree that she still suffers with an eating disorder.
Okay.
And she wouldn't mind me talking about that. She's very public with it. And I said that I thought of an idea that, and this is the first time I've ever mentioned this, because it literally was a conversation I had today, that unless they start releasing heroes at a ridiculously fast rate, I would like to do something like this for every hero launch. And
Yeah. Yeah.
if what Miller says, is accurate. Say Spider-Man is next because PlayStation Player and all that. Sorry, guys. I want to do the Spider-Man one for an eating disorder charity, or
Wow.
something along them lines.
Yeah.
That is 100% what I want to go for. But of course, the focus at the minute is on Hawkeye, Cancer Fund for Children. It's and it's something that I'm just insanely looking forward to be honest. I selfishly, I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm really looking forward to getting my time slot done with, so I can just watch all these other streamers in action while doing everything that I have to do on the sidelines.
Mm-hmm.
Because the idea of opening up an event like that scares the absolute shit out of me. Like, I'm just going to be really transparent about it, so it's one of them things where I don't want to get it out the way because I don't want to do it. I want to get out the way so I can go, oh, okay, now I can focus on just being the organizer, you know?
Yeah.
So it's
What
it's just one of them things.
you're opening and closing, right? So you're doing. So how many hours in total are you doing? Because you're doing.
I'm doing more than 24 hours in regards to doing something. So in the streaming side of it, I'm doing 3
Mhm.
hours at the beginning. Obviously I'll be awake from then on. Obviously I'll be awake a lot beforehand, just making sure everything's groovy.
Mhm.
Do my 3 hours, stick around for the rest of the time until the following day. Maybe have a cat nap, if I can get some people to just like keep an eye on it and stuff. Then I'll jump on at the end because of I just in general just want to speak face to chat and just say thank you, because even if the event shows up and there's like one donation and stuff like that, and it's just
Yeah.
it's just a bit of love, it's still something at the end of the day, you know what I mean, and it still
Yep.
means a lot to me that this is even happening. So it's one of them things that I felt like I don't have to do it, because in theory the final time will oh no, no, no! My apologies. Actually, no. I will be doing another 3 hours, but I want to stick around for more than those 3 hours afterwards. So 3 hours at the beginning, 3 hours at the end, and then I'm going to stick around. I'm going to change the stream to face cam just so I can just say thank you to everyone at the end. And
Yeah.
I just yeah, like it's been a lot of reorganizing, a lot of organizing. So a lot of the things I've just said there, like like for example, forgetting that I am doing another extra 3 hours, is just part of the parcel for this sort of event. But as long as it runs as smoothly as possible, and as long as those kids and that those children and the family, are getting the most they possibly can, it just that's the goal, man. It's what it means. It's what
I hear you.
matters.
I hear you. So with that being said, I think this is the perfect time now for you to plug your shit and start off with the charity stuff. Plug everything that you got going on. I'll put the descriptions in the link below. But I know you have the new Twitch and the Twitter now, so please, by all means, go and plug them, please.
Right, so justgiving.com / Avengers Assemble Against Cancer. Uh, Already the goal for the pricing, the fundraising target is 500 Great British pounds. At the minute we are on 123 pounds, because for some reason dollars mean a lot less than pounds. So there's been already a great amount of donations. Lovely, it's been amazing. But of course we want to try and get as much as we can raised for Cancer Fund for Children. But if you can't donate, it's absolutely fine. I would love it if you guys could just share the link, or just be there on stream day, which you can be there on stream day at twitch.tv / assemble for charity. That's going to be the Twitch page where all these future charity events, like I mentioned before, like the Spider-Man one for eating disorder, a charity for eating disorders and stuff, will be taking place. Again, these events could vary, but of course March 18th is the big one, where it's going to be myself and a bunch of other streamers. I do have the list. I'm not forgetting anyone, but I figured it'd just be easy to just say that for now. We'll be be working together to of course, stream Hawkeye, stream all this new content, and raise as much money for Cancer Fund for Children as possible. I also want to note that because it's just giving, it doesn't come to me and I give it to them. It's literally like it goes straight to them. The moment that the Just Giving page is stopped, the money goes directly to them, and I get an email at most saying that it's gone to them, right?
Yep.
So if you've got any concerns about anything untoward, I wouldn't do that anyway. But just in case you're a bit worried, it's all there on Just Giving that explains how the process works, and of course Twitter for all the updates and stuff is twitter.com/A4charity, which is run by an absolutely handsome individual. I don't know who he is.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know who would ever
It's
run that Twitter account. Wow, what a gentleman.
I know, right? I'm great. Wait, I mean,
You're sorry. Wait, what? It's you running it. That's crazy. I didn't. Wow, that's crazy.
no way. But in all seriousness, that's where all the updates and stuff are going to be going on. Just a lot of hype around it, and yeah, that's pretty much it. And that's all the stuff. I mean, look, at the end of the day, until March 18th, all I care about is plugging Assemble for charity. I know normally I'd come on here and I'd plug my own shit while panicking, trying to find out all the links, but just give Assemble for charity as much love as you can. Like, that is all I care about. So that's the focus for my plug your shit this week.
Perfect. Yeah, guys, you know me. Hit the subscribe button. Check all the links down below. Obviously, if you guys have to click a link today, click the Assemble for Charity stuff. Otherwise, I'll see you guys next week. Thank you guys so much. Actually, I might see you guys tonight. So if you're here, you're watching this today. It is Marvel Monday. I'm a little under the weather. Let me kind of gather some energy here. If I do go live for Marvel Monday, it is 7 p.m. Eastern time. But there is a lot to do this week. There is obviously a stream tonight. Streams for the rest of the week. Honestly, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Are you? Do you co-stream their stream Stardust, or do you just kind of watch them?
I just watch them, man. Like, what I normally do is I'll get like notes from I'll steal notes from Calyx or something, and I'll do a video on the notes that he puts on Reddit or something. You know what I mean? Like, and that's just me being transparent. I'll put my own spin on it and stuff like that. But like, I like to absorb everything I can. Because at the end of the day, I'm still a fan. You know what I mean? And if I'm streaming it, I don't know. It doesn't feel as great as it could be.
Yeah. It's like instead of a fan, you're kind of like a worker, I guess, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty much trying to be a content creator while I'm trying to be a fan, and those two things, they
clash
mix,
sometimes.
But
they clash sometimes.
Yeah, they clash sometimes. Sometimes you over exaggerate something, like so. Like I did it with Hawkeye's thing, and realistically, I wasn't actually upset as much as I showed I was on stream. It's just that when you have the camera on, you're instantly gonna over exaggerate. No.
You lied to the people? That's unbelievable. Dude,
I did not lie.
I'm investigating you now.
I've just promoted a charity, and Hyrule is trying to cancel me.
I'm gonna investigate you. I'm gonna get my finest investigators on, and they're gonna figure out to the extent that you lied to the people about. So in full transparency, guys, I don't know if I'm going to be streaming alongside the campaign replay stuff. I imagine if we're going to get any announcements, it'll be at the start of the stream tomorrow. But I will be streaming obviously alongside the Hawkeye showcase. It's just I might wait and see how these campaign replay streams go. I'm not 100% sold that it's going to be anything worth streaming alongside. But yeah, if I do feel better, I will be streaming tonight. So sit tight. I'll announce that on Twitter. But with that being said, guys, obviously this is the end of Avengers Weekly Recap number 4. It's the 4th one, right? That's crazy. It's already been a month, man. Done too many, dude. I said that earlier this week when I did the weekly blog. It was like number 27 or something. I was like, I've done way too many of these. I looked at it and I looked at they said like number 27. I was like, fuck, like I just gotta stop. Like it's just a way. You look at it, you're just like, oh my god, man, where's my life gone? You know.
Every single time I look in my sub box and I see a weekly blog, I'm like, why has he done another one?
Listen. because I love them. All right, I love them. Give me
You
more
love the
weekly
mega hype
blogs.
pro tips. You love the
Yeah,
pro
I do.
tips.
I do, dude. To be honest, I used to read those all the time. I was like, all right, guys, pro tips time. And at some point, I was like, holy fuck, I can't read the pro tips anymore. Like, so, but it's funny. It's funny you said that because it just brought me back to like earlier this week, and I was like, oh my god, I've done way too many weekly blogs. But
Yeah.
you know what? Here's my hope. Here's my hope. Last thing. The hope is that the weekly blogs just totally change, and they get meaty and full of info, and I'm right there already, and people are gonna be like, oh my god, High Ruler assembled, they already do the weekly blogs, and now the blogs are gonna be filled with so much more. I'm going right to his channel. You set the tone early, and you just ride through the bad times, and then when the good times come, whoosh, you smooth sailing, baby, smooth sailing. So that's where we're at.
I mean, that's a positive outlook, considering
Mm-hmm.
that all the anger from this week with the XP changing the communication to then just be like, you know what? I'll survive it and get more views from it, baby.
Yes, sir. That's what it's all about, I guess, right? Us
That's
YouTubers,
great.
content creators, we just do it for the
That's true,
money.
yeah, man.
I'm actually
Uh,
poor. Just saying, I'm actually poor. I
yeah,
gotta
no,
start
I
paying.
got Twitch affiliate recently, so if you guys want to,
Anyways, guys, that's it for the video this week. If you guys like this video, make sure you hit the thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. I will see you guys next week. We're not doing any free clout in here anymore. Free clout's over for the week, so I'll see you guys next time. Stardust, say bye to the people.
bye.
All right, guys, I'll see you guys next time. Enjoy the rest of your week. I'll see you guys hopefully tonight. All right, peace out.